For nearly 50 years, the fiery behind-the-scenes feud between Jimmie Walker and Esther Rolle remained a well-guarded secret. But now at the age of 78, Walker is finally opening up, and what he's revealing about life on the Good Times set will leave you speechless. This isn't just another behind-the-scenes TV spat. It's a story of betrayal, conflicting ideals, and a long-buried truth. So what really made Esther Rolle despise Jimmie Walker? Stick around, because the answer will completely reshape what you thought you knew. To the world, they were Florida and J.J. Evans, the beloved mother and son pair who won over America on Good Times. Their on-screen bond felt genuine, heartwarming, even legendary. But off-camera, tension was slowly bubbling over. Whispers persisted for years that serious personal and creative rifts existed between Jimmie Walker and Esther Rolle. The kind of friction that didn't just spark awkward moments, it influenced the entire direction of the series. For decades, the real story remained hidden, buried under layers of nostalgia and Hollywood secrecy. But now, Walker is done staying quiet. At 78, he's stepping into the spotlight with stunning revelations about his time working with Esther Rolle and why the relationship was far more strained than the public ever realized. In this video, we'll peel back the layers, exploring a conflict that simmered for decades, the power struggles, the creative disagreements, and the emotional toll it took on both actors. You'll find out what really happened once the cameras stopped rolling and why the truth might just change the way you view this iconic show. Believe me, what you're about to learn will take you by surprise. Because just when you think you figured it out, that's when it gets deeper. Good Times premiered in 1974 and quickly became a smash hit for CBS, the first prime time sitcom centered on a black two-parent household. Created by Eric Monty and Mike Evans, and further developed by Norman Lear, the show broke barriers. It was a cultural milestone, offering authentic representation for Black viewers and giving white audiences an unfiltered glimpse into life in urban America. At the core of the show stood Florida Evans, portrayed by the commanding and no-nonsense Esther Rolle. She was the anchor, the embodiment of strength, principle, and motherhood in its purest form. Alongside her was her eldest son, James Evans Jr., better known as JJ, a lanky teen full of one-liners and wild energy brought to life by the magnetic Jimmie Walker. His catchphrase, Dyn-o-mite, became a national craze, and JJ stole the spotlight almost overnight. But here's where the problem began. That kind of spotlight wasn't part of the original vision. Esther Rolle had made her intentions for the series crystal clear. She wanted Good Times to be a serious, thoughtful family drama, one that fearlessly addressed poverty, racial injustice, and the Black experience with dignity and heart. But as Jimmie Walker's fame skyrocketed, the tone of the show began to shift. More episodes leaned into humor and slapstick, and JJ, originally a side character, quickly morphed into the central attraction. Behind the curtain, this shift was causing real pain. According to those who were there, Rolle was deeply troubled by what she saw as the buffoonery in JJ's over-the-top portrayal. She felt it watered down the show's message and reduced the complexity of Black identity to a running joke. She didn't think the laughs were worth the sacrifice. While audiences loved the comedy, a silent battle was raging backstage. First part, Walker said he was aware something was off, but didn't grasp the full weight of it at the time. "I was young. I was just doing what they told me." He said years later, "I never meant to offend anyone. I was simply doing what they asked, trying to be funny. That's what the producers expected of me." But the real issue wasn't just comedy versus drama. It went deeper. It was about power, creative vision, and legacy. And Esther Rolle was not going to let hers be erased without a fight. What unfolded next sent ripples through the entertainment world and signaled the start of one of the most heated behind-the-scenes conflicts in classic TV history. As Good Times climbed in ratings and became a cultural force, the creative friction behind the scenes only intensified. The laughter might have echoed in millions of households, but on the set, Esther Rolle was growing more and more disillusioned. To viewers, it all seemed perfect, a successful show, a cultural milestone, and two leads adored by fans everywhere. But Esther wasn't celebrating. To her, the show's deeper purpose was being lost. What once aimed to portray a working class Black family with grace, dignity, and resilience was turning into a stage for gags and catchphrases. Esther wasn't the only one who felt that way. John Amos, who portrayed Florida's husband, James Evans Sr., also became fed up with what he considered the over-the-top antics of JJ's character. In later interviews, Amos revealed that their concerns were brushed aside by producers, and when he pushed back too hard, the consequences were brutal. By the end of season 3, John Amos was gone. Written off, his character killed in a car accident. That decision sent a chilling message. Esther Rolle was heartbroken. Without Amos by her side, both on and off screen, she felt more alone than ever. Her partner in the story was gone, and so was her strongest supporter behind the scenes, with JJ now the central figure and the show veering more towards sitcom fluff than serious storytelling. Esther knew she couldn't stay quiet anymore. And in 1977, during the 6th season of Good Times, she made her choice. Esther Rolle walked away. And she didn't exit quietly. In a now iconic interview with Ebony magazine, Rolle didn't hold back. She publicly condemned the show's direction, accusing the writers of promoting a character that, in her view, demeaned black men. "He's 18 and he doesn't work," she said of JJ. "He can't read or write, he doesn't think." The show didn't start out that way, but little by little, with the help of the actor playing him, it became that. That actor? Jimmie Walker. The long brewing tension finally exploded, and now the whole world knew. Rolle named Walker outright, putting their feud on full display across the industry. Walker, caught off guard by the very public criticism, chose to remain silent, at least back then. He didn't hit back in interviews, didn't publish any tell-all memoirs, and didn't run to the press, but that silence wouldn't last forever. Today, in his late 70s, Walker is finally speaking his truth, and he's not holding anything back. "Esther Rolle didn't like me," he admitted in a recent interview. "She made that very clear. But I respected her, I still do. I just wish she could have looked at it from a different angle." Walker stands by his belief that he never intended to sabotage the show's message or disrespect anyone on set. "I was doing what the producers wanted," he explained. "All I wanted was to make people laugh. That's what the network paid for, that's what the audience expected." But for Esther Rolle, it was never just about the laughs. To her, every joke that chipped away at the dignity of her community felt like a betrayal. And that's why she made the choice to leave. Still, her departure and her eventual, unexpected return raised even more questions about who truly had control over Good Times, and why her feud with Jimmie Walker never fully healed. For decades, Jimmie Walker kept his thoughts to himself. Even as headlines cast him as the villain of Good Times, even as Esther Rolle continued to call him out in public, he never struck back. No scandalous interviews, no books, no back and forth. He stayed silent, but why? The truth is, Jimmie Walker wasn't just keeping a low profile to be polite. He was simply trying to survive. Hollywood has never been easy, especially not for black performers in the 1970s and 80s. One misstep, one public feud, and your entire career could be gone in an instant. Walker understood that all too well. He had seen what happened to John Amos. He witnessed the pushback Esther Rolle received. He realized that keeping quiet and staying in his lane as the funny guy was the safest route. In his own words, "People didn't want Jimmie, they wanted JJ. I was a product and I knew it. So I played the part." But behind that cheerful, ever-smiling TV persona was a man caught in the middle, between admiration and mockery, and it weighed on him deeply. Over the years, Walker recalls hearing whispers here and there from fans or industry insiders. "Did you hear what Esther said about you? Aren't you angry? Why don't you speak your truth?" But he always brushed it off. He didn't want to stir the pot. He saw himself as the mediator, the comic relief, not the source of drama. Yet that silence came with a price. Though he remained a popular comedic figure in the public eye, his image in black creative circles took a hit. Many began to view him as a sellout, someone who leaned too far into caricature just to chase laughs and stardom. And that judgment cut deeper than he ever let on. In more recent interviews, Walker has acknowledged feeling alone, especially among the very community he was expected to represent. "I got the fame," he said, "but I didn't get the respect, and sometimes I really wonder if it was worth it." That tension lingered with him for decades. Even after Good Times wrapped, any talk of cast reunions or special appearances would instantly raise the question: would Esther Rolle show up if Jimmie Walker was invited? Or the reverse, their relationship never truly healed. They appeared in a few commemorative interviews together, but there was always a distance, a space between them. More cordial than close, more polite than reconciled, and still, Walker never spoke ill of her. Not once, which is why his recent reflections are so powerful. In a podcast interview just months ago, Jimmie Walker, now 78, finally opened up. And he didn't speak with bitterness. He spoke with honesty and vulnerability. He talked openly about his admiration for Esther Rolle for her unwavering strength, her leadership, her deep commitment to the show's purpose, even though they had very different visions. He credited her for helping to shape Good Times into the cultural landmark it became. Above all, he expressed sadness that they never found peace before her passing. "We were never friends," he admitted, "but we were family. A TV family. And I wish I'd told her that before she died." He admitted that Esther Rolle was instrumental in shaping Good Times into the groundbreaking show it became. But above all, he shared his regret that they never truly put their differences to rest. "We weren't friends," he said, "but we were family, TV family. And I wish I had said that to her before she passed." Esther Rolle always pushed audiences to look beyond stereotypes. To her, JJ's antics weren't just irritating, they were damaging. In her eyes, they pulled focus from the show's original mission and reinforced the exact caricatures she was determined to dismantle. Meanwhile, Jimmie Walker became the face of the entertainment machine. The wild popularity of his character wasn't entirely his doing. It was fueled by network influence, decisions driven by ratings, and a public hungry for humor in hard times. Walker always maintained that he was just fulfilling what was asked of him, but playing the funny man on a show that was meant to uplift came with a burden, one that grew heavier with time. And looking back, even with all the conflict, Good Times still stood as a cultural force. Audiences laughed. The catchphrases became iconic. And decades later, those creative tensions still ignite deep and passionate conversations, even now cultural. Critics and academics look back on Good Times as both a pioneering breakthrough and a cautionary tale. It proved that Black-centered stories could succeed in prime time, but it also laid bare the struggle between authentic storytelling and commercial interests, between what a community values and what the networks want to sell. What's often lost in those conversations, though, is the humanity of the people at the center of it all. Jimmie Walker and Esther Rolle weren't just actors delivering lines. They were two real individuals swept up in a cultural shift they couldn't fully control. Rolle, an activist in the body of an actress, fought for purposeful representation. Walker, a comedian suddenly saddled with cultural responsibility, was just trying to survive without losing himself in the process. Now, Walker's recent reflections have brought that dialogue roaring back to life. Fans are reconsidering not just Good Times, but the immense pressure placed on Black performers to speak for an entire race, a pressure white actors rarely face. Even younger viewers, watching reruns or streaming the series for the first time, are struck by the show's blunt honesty and the contradictions within it. Many agree that the show remains relevant because it portrays hardship without hopelessness, comedy without denial, and family without perfection. And although the behind-the-scenes rift between Walker and Rolle strained their bond, it came to represent something much bigger, the larger, ongoing struggle between being entertaining and being elevating. Because here's the truth, you can have laughter and legacy, but rarely without friction. And so we're left with one final question. What would Esther Rolle say today about Jimmie Walker's heartfelt admission? And how does their complicated story continue to influence the future of television? That's where we leave it, in reflection and maybe, just maybe, in healing.